Welcome to the Wizard of Cause, your go-to podcast for social impact, where we speak to innovative businesses, how they give, and of course, the charities that they love and inspire them. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur, a startup founder, or a business professional looking to stay ahead of the curve, the Wizard will show you how to build lasting social impact on the world. Are you ready to grow, give, and be inspired? Let's get started.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from five figures to six figures or six figures to seven figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
I was introduced to Share the Credit by a gal in a marketing group that I was participating in most recently. And um, your tenacity at sharing the credit, um, has been very helpful in this busy world. And you guys have been on top of it. You have reached out to me and given me grace with my timelines. Yet being there for any questions I have and to be able to start to move forward when I was ready to start to move forward. I can see that this is going to be and is a very beneficial um, connection that I have with you guys and out to the community, and will continue to be. Um, and I believe it's going to be very fruitful. And the wisdom that you guys have in all the years that you've been doing it, I think brings a lot to the table for us. Be able to take me by my hand and walk me through this stuff and say, here's where we're at, here's what we're doing. So I am grateful for that and look forward to the future.
So I am here today with Kim, and oh my gosh, I like to talk about the people and what they do. And I know a lot of veterans, and I know so many that, in fact, that I was told by the owners of several corporations that are all veterans-based to please come and have Kim talk about her organization and what she does for people and veterans on a daily basis. Now, I'm going to say this ahead of time. Kim, one, thank you for being with us today. Always
Of
good to
course,
see
thank
your
you.
smiling face. Now, Kim, you're a little bit the Colossus of Rhodes. You got one leg on each side of the river. You're both a business, right? Your own little setup, but you also are a nonprofit. You set up a nonprofit to help fund that. Now,
Yep.
I know why, but would you mind, one, telling me a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then tell us why you felt the need to also have that nonprofit, although I already know. Floor is yours.
Well, I've been doing craniosacral therapy primarily since 2000. So for 25 years now.
That's a mouthful.
Craniosacral therapy deals with the central nervous system, the body as a whole, but it affects the central nervous system, which starts in your head, goes down through your brain, through your spine, down to your tailbones, cranium sacrum. And when we can meet somebody where they're at on any given moment, without expectations of what healing looks like, things can start to change. They can be exactly as they are, and bring whatever is coming up for them to the table to be able to work with and support start the healing process.
So that is rich. That is rich thing. It might be too rich. So tell me, on a one-on-one, if somebody who comes in to have this CST work. I'm going to use the acronym because I'm not
Yeah.
trained to be. Who is the person that comes in and needs the CST work done on them? What are they
Um,
suffering from?
I know this sounds very broad, but we're going to say anything or everything. Most people have vehicles.
Mhm.
We get a nice new vehicle and everything works fine most of the time. And as that vehicle ages, we're replacing tires and changing the oil and transmission fluid, all of those things that we do. We can look at our body in a similar way. It never stops working. We're in our bodies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In cars, we may be in our cars for a couple hours a day or more, maybe, but our body never stops working. And so it's a matter for us from a craniosacral perspective to get out of the way and support the process that's happening in your body. And we have techniques to find those things that are happening in your body
Mhm.
and then start to work with you
So
from a
you have
craniosacral perspective.
right. You have said something to me, and I'm going to recall it here. And forgive me if I say it wrong. Yeah, this is your wheelhouse. But you have said that you have trauma and you store it in the flesh.
Hmm.
Is that unpack that for me? Because that's a little that's not esoteric. That's almost mystical sounding. Um, but it's got real world consequences. So if how does somebody store trauma in their flesh? Because I remember the first time you told that to me and you started unpacking that, I think I lost a feeling. It knocked a feeling loose. And I said, I started putting internalizing and putting myself in other people's shoes. And I'm like, I can almost see it. But tell me what that means.
So it's not something we consciously do is tuck it in a little part of our body, but trauma will go to the weakest link in the body.
Ooh,
Typically, there's a book out by Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score. Most mental health people, a lot of body workers have read that book. The brain, our brains can rationalize and justify and make sense of things. We know that this trauma has happened. We can recall a trauma from 2 minutes, 2 years, 20, 40, 80 years ago. Um, and we know that that has happened and it's over with. Bodies don't have a concept of time. It's like if somebody were to scare me
oh
and it was
wow.
something, right? So bodies, right? I suck up my diaphragm. If it's a traumatic situation, that diaphragm may be stuck up there for years to come if it's trauma. And we can find that bodies don't know that it's time to release that. They hold on, they do a lovely job at holding on and protecting us. Then what happens in our bodies is we have one compensation pattern after another. And pretty soon bodies do a lovely job at compensating. Somewhere down the road, we don't have the energy or the stamina to continue to hold that pattern. And then things start to happen. And that's where we really get in trouble and realize the effects of the trauma down the road. And trauma is different for everybody. That's the other thing. I've had groups of veterans that have been in the same situation. Um, and they all have a different perception about what happened because our experience comes from our perception of the world and what's happened to us previously. I have a couple guys that have witnessed homicides at 7 years old. Going
Ouch.
to war and doing some of those things aren't really that big of a deal compared to somebody for them in that moment, compared to somebody that has never seen that and never experienced it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
learning to have grace and realize that everybody's suffering from something, whether we know it or not, and whether we know what they're suffering from, um, may not make any sense to us, but it can to somebody else. So being able to find the grace to be able to allow people to some degree, as long as they're not harming themselves or others, to be able to feel and experience that can be really helpful without trying to fix it for them.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. What inspired you? to get into CST in the first place? What got you here?
I was in massage school and I
Because
was not a
nobody
needle.
just comes makes this leap, right?
Right, right.
Nobody's I'm in high school and I'm going to figure out how to take this trauma that you're carrying out of your that you're storing in your body and your flesh, and I
Right.
now I'm going to carry this statement around with me. Your body doesn't have a concept of time, right? In
Hmm.
me. So
It goes
thank
into
you for that.
protection mode. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. But so what got Kim to the point where she ended up saying, I've got to end up doing this. This is now my work. This is my calling.
It dawned on to me at one point. I was traveling with some of my family members, and I just had the knack for touch. I don't know what that was, and we talked about it, and I we decided to go to massage school. And so I came home, and 2 weeks later, I was in massage school. During that time, I had an instructor that was an acupuncturist, and I'm not a needle girl. Um, I, at that point, I was not a needle girl, so I got to know him and I got to trust him. And I went in and he did some needles for me. And at some point, a couple few sessions in, he just sat next to me and had one hand below my shoulder and one hand on top of my shoulder. And we chit-chatted the whole time. And I paid my money and I went on, made another appointment, went back, went on my way, came back, and he started doing the same thing. And I'm like, okay, what? You can poke me with some needles or give me a massage or something. What are you doing? And he's like, just in your mind's eye, come down and pay attention to what's happening between my hands. And it was like 30 seconds. And I could feel all of this stuff happening in my shoulder. Um, I had no concept of that because we're out in the world energetically and with our minds. We're out doing all this stuff. We don't ever, or very seldom do we come back to our bodies, especially in the world today. It's so busy and so crazy. To be able to just come back and be with yourself, let alone have somebody support your body. And he was pulled to this for a reason. So there was something to that. And I knew I needed to have more of that. We talked about doing one class a year. I went to the first class and I was doing like 3 classes a year. So I quickly got on the fast track because it really, really resonated with me is how do you just be still and know what's happening or palpate what's happening in your own body?
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So let me ask you something. This is you've said in the past that your body is dealing with something. It's coping, right? It's trying to deal with a situation. So like if the old phrase, hey, I see you're favoring that right leg, right? Like, and you're, oh, I
Mhm.
stubbed my toe or my back is hurting, and you've still got to walk, right? So you're trying to get around,
Uh-huh.
whatever the problem is. Um, is this something that, in your hypothalamus, you maintains your body's homeostasis, right? It maintains
Mhm.
your system, right? It tells you if you're eating after a while, it makes food taste bad because it doesn't want you to eat to death, right? Um,
Right.
if you're when they give you when you're taking when you give blood, they give you something to eat because they want you to drink something. It tells you when you're thirsty, it tells you when you're hungry, when you're sleepy. It's as one person said to me years ago, your hypothalamus assumes whatever you're doing right now you're going to do to the point of death, and so its system is trying to level it out. Is this something in your body's homeostasis that it's as a coping mechanism, where it's just trying to get around the trauma that you've got and allows you to keep moving on? Is this, but it becomes ultimately, it sounds like it becomes a negative thing, because you and I have talked before, and coping isn't healing, right? Coping is
No.
walking with a cane and braces for 20 years when you might could get rid of that and walk with strength and
Mhm.
feeling and enjoy the ground and and not dread every stair, every step you come to.
Yeah.
um, is this something that your body, in its need for maintaining its homeostasis, that it just somehow, not to mix metaphors, but the oyster gets a little grain of sand in there, and it protects itself, right? It makes the pearl, but
Yeah,
ultimately that is an invader to his gentle insides, and he doesn't like it.
correct.
Right.
Correct. And we consider that, I mean, I think there can be some wisdom in the trauma too, some healing wisdom.
Mm.
But yes, that's kind of the same kind of thing, except for that sand that becomes the pearl. And our bodies do that same kind of thing with scar tissue or certain things. It creates a disruption in our physiological system that, you know, stretches muscles and tendons and pushes on organs or whatever that case may be for anybody specifically,
Right.
right? When you have a disruption and something tightens up, everything else around that has to tighten up. And when this tightens up, then the next thing has to change too.
Oh
So
my gosh. Oh,
it becomes more global. You know, you're talking muscle fibers, we're talking arteries and veins and just the whole system. And that's the beauty of this work is we follow your body's roadmap to start with to be able to get into the tissue, the body and the tissue. Your body will show us where to work. Um, so there can be an intuitive hit, but we always come back to the body and check where your body's moving and where it's not. Because
right.
there's lots and lots of rhythms in the body. There's lots of things moving. Spinal fluid, blood, lymph fluid, hormones, your digestive system, there's your heart moves, your lungs move, all of that stuff is moving at different rates, different paces, different depths, all of that stuff. And we can tap into that. We have ways to do that. Anybody can tap into that with a little bit of guidance.
Okay, so I've got a question. This kind of organically just flows out. We had very young Kim that I don't know if she could have ever seen this particular path in the future, right? And then you meet some people. You're here, and you're doing this work now. I'll, I've always got to ask, what is it that, because obviously you've continued the work. Like I said, you built a nonprofit to help fund it. What do you find most rewarding about doing the work that you do? What gets Kim up and says it's got to be done, I got to do it, and I know it, and right? What gets Kim up to doing
Caught me a little off guard there.
it? So, I apologize. I want to hug you.
So
Don't
that
get
was a
upset.
question. Um, I get to do this work. It's not anything I knew about initially. I experienced it myself. I am a military daughter. I come from a military family. I've seen it. I witnessed it when my mom was up at Madigan, when she was sick, the walking wounded, the people that don't look wounded, but they're carrying the wounds
The
as well.
walking wounded. I'll never lose that statement now. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and some of those aren't physical ones, some of them are physical ones. And so, um, I get to do this work every day. And I get to witness, um, the sessions and the sacred space that these people go, and I don't take that lightly, or they can go. And some of the stories I've heard are truly unimaginable. And I can hold a space for them to go to that place, whether they talk about it or not. Their body is processing that stuff.
Mm.
And when they sit up off the table and go, "What was that?" We don't have to know what that is in that moment. They may know, they may not know, but they can feel it. They feel it in their tissue. It is every session for every individual is different. Um, Going into a session without having any expectations is imperative because we don't know what healing is going to look like. And my job is to be a witness. Those veterans that I told you about earlier, a group of them all have a different experience. So they can talk about that to some degree, but they will never truly be witnessed at the depths of their core and their trauma because nobody else can understand that
Mm.
because we all have our own perception of the world and what happened in any given situation. So for me, to be trusted in that way, to be with somebody on the table and allow them to go wherever they need to go with no expectation and no comments about, well, maybe, right? Um, and the questions we normally ask is, what are you noticing? Not what are you thinking, not what are you feeling, but what are you noticing? That's an open-ended question. They can talk or they cannot talk.
Right.
So it's the thing I hear the most because of the approach is I've never told anybody that
Mm.
because we don't push that. They don't tell their psych person, they don't tell their PCP, they don't tell their family. They've never told anybody. I hear this stuff regularly and I can't not do it. And I don't know why I get to do it, but I do, and I can't not do it. So, um,
That's the difference between an occupation and a vocation. One is, your everyday work. A vocation means a calling. Vocatus, called to it, right?
right,
Can you
right.
tell me something? You may or may not, but um, if the spirit so moves you, can you give me an example, not using any names, but of somebody, and they've just like this has been 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, or whatever, and if I'm not free of it, I'm a I'm a I'm a I'm 1,000 miles further down the road than I thought I might have gotten to, right? Because sometimes, the problem is okay, so this is my life, right? I've got to walk with this pain. I've got to walk with this giant rock that's stabbing, that there's no rock in my shoe, but it feels like this stabbing thing is going up through my leg or this pain in my lower back. Or can you give me an example on something that if Kim were to if Kim were to write a book, she would be like, if nothing else for this guy, right? That kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, what have you been in this game? 25 years, right? That's, um,
Yeah.
uh, and I think the problem may be, will let me try to limit that down to 1,000 stories. But, do you have an example of somebody when you say they suffered with blank and they were able to get it out, right?
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus, what I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
Yeah, there's 1,000 stories. We've done it since in the last 25 years. We've done served over 6,000 people and done over 31,000 sessions. I have a couple of veterans in particular, but most recent, and this isn't a very long story. Um, there's a firefighter here that runs. I'll just leave it as a firefighter. He's known around the state, and I've invited him in to come in and see what we do so that he can take that back to his people. So
Mm.
he came in the first time and got on the table and sat up and was like, what the heck? So what's that? What are you noticing? And he's like, I don't know what that was, but I can tell something happened. So
Like when
he
he
went
had
on
your
his way.
shoulder between his hands. Well, what are you noticing, right?
Right, right.
Right.
And this was a whole body thing for him. And actually what it started, what I was really plugged into was the back of his neck. And um at some point he had his head turned to the right. And when he got done, he's like, well, my head was turned to the left. And I'm like, actually, your head was turned to the right. And then I asked him if any of that, what was happening was familiar. And he said there was a couple calls that came to him because the emotional piece, there were a couple calls that were coming up for him that he was recalling. He didn't talk about that, but I could feel in his tissue he was processing something.
Mm.
So, as an educational piece, which I wouldn't normally talk about later or ask these kinds of questions because we just want people to be with whatever that is, and the self-discovery is the healing. If I can facilitate the self-discovery without putting on what my perception might be or what it feels like to me. We don't do that.
Mhm.
In this particular case, I was feeling him out to see if that would be okay. And I asked him, can I, for an education thing, I said, for me, the perception I had, and I said, don't own this if this doesn't resonate with you, was about your helmet, right? Going out to these calls with all this trauma and doing all the things that you're doing, the weight of that helmet. And he's like, that's exactly what that was. So those kinds of things, the self-discovery about that. And then he came back again and had a very similar session. And he sat there for 10 minutes at the typo when he got done, and he still doesn't know. I ran into a couple of his buddies that he's in a group with yesterday, and they said he came back and he was just excited about what happened. And I'm like, okay, well, I've tried to call him a couple times and haven't heard from him. So we never know what somebody's healing, what's happening for them,
Right.
but if
Right.
we
Right.
push them, if we push and pull, then we're pushing our will on them. So for me, it's vitally important. The way we do the work is to really allow them to do their thing. So and then another one really, uh, I had a veteran that was referred by the VA, and he came in, he was a Green Beret guy. He didn't have a whole lot to say, but when I talked to him on the phone initially, I'll be as ungraphic as I possibly can, but normally I don't ask on the phone, can you share with me a little bit about what's going on? I just want them to come in. And so I said, through his little conversation, I said, can you share with me about? And he's like, well, yeah, we were hit by a roadside bomb. We went up and over the ditch and hit my head on the turret and went up and over the second ditch and hit my head and had a brain injury. I lost 13 of my buddies and I tried to resuscitate my best friend. That's all. So I'm like, okay.
I appreciate
I
that he tried to do it like an intro to a book, just a gentle recap, and you're like, that's all nightmare and horror story. That's
well, this is his lived experience, but again, understanding that's how the body responds. He couldn't, this is just what happened. He couldn't drop into that. Now, told him about cranial work and told him about massage. He said, I want to do the cranial work. I want to do the cranial. That's because we don't push and don't pull. So he came in and he got on the table, and the first session there was just one little tear that came down. He was not much of a talker, but there were a couple times. And at some point, he started talking about his wife, and kiddos. And there was some issues there because the healthier he got, the more issues there were at home. And I share that because that is not uncommon, because families are now trying to adapt to things that are happening, right? And they don't know where they stand. They're dealing with this person that's had trauma. Now they're getting better. Now where am I at? So there's lots of dynamics that come into play as well as a family unit. So we like to treat families when that's appropriate for the person that's the original
I wouldn't have even
person.
thought of that. It's not even a Disney movie, like, oh, and all of a sudden it's fixed, and there's the enchantment's lifted, and then everybody's happy. In fixing them, and not to use this to dissuade anybody, but it sounds like his family was coping a little bit with him also, right?
Absolutely.
And so the
You
moment he's releasing
mhm.
and getting past that is like, we don't know what the hell to do. We don't know.
Well, and they don't
We
know what to
know,
do.
right?
Mhm.
We know Edward Hyde, maybe we don't know Dr. Jekyll, and that's and you know,
Those are trauma responses, and I get that. I
right.
mean, again, back to my neutral spot of those are trauma responses. And so, how do we support them? Because when we start to heal, help individuals heal, they get back into their families, back into their communities. They are now reaching out to the rest of the world in ways that are healthy, right? So it's a trickle down effect. And in my opinion, part of this funding is at some point for families too. We have this is another one. I have a wife of a Green Beret just in the last couple of years. She's in her 20s. She has a 6-year-old. At that point, it was a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Um, and she's a nurse. And she had many conversations with her husband, and he committed suicide. She had no idea. And so her comments have been, if she's posted her stuff on Facebook, and if we had only known then before what she knows now, she had never heard of craniosacral therapy. She brings her kiddo in with her. We treat him sometimes by himself. We treat them together, one hand on each. And she'll call me and say, or text me afterwards. She's like, "Oh my God, Kim, he had two BMs in the last 24 hours, because his body is softening. He doesn't talk about it, but his
I'm
body
sorry,
is
but
softening and able
what
to move."
release is release, right? And
Right?
you said, you've got a problem in an area and it tightens up everything, but then it affects the chemistry and the harmony and the whole orchestra of your body moving because they're all somehow compensating, radiating out from
Yeah.
that one problem. Wow, wow, wow.
Right. Yeah. So there's some pretty magical stuff. Don't like the word magical necessarily, but some pretty significant healing happening. And we just need to move forward and we need to just get the word out.
That's
It's
profoundly
time.
rewarding work. So
Yeah.
okay, so let me ask you a question then. 25 years, right? You're not brand new to this. I mean, this is your baby. This is your work and your calling. What's the wisdom that you've pulled out from that 25 years if you've got it down into well, one little bit of you know wisdom reduction sauce? What have you taken from that 25 years of practice and work in healing with these men and women?
Every body is different. It's unique and wonderful in its own way. And we're resilient. Our bodies are resilient. Um, and for me, by supporting the healing process and getting out of the way, anything's possible. And it is happening. It is happening.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to go into one particular thing. Again, like I said, you you have the practice and the work that you're doing, but you also have a foundation. The foundation is set up for a particular reason, and obviously it's something I know a little bit more about because I mean that's all we do is work in helping nonprofits. But you had a nonprofit for the sole reason of what?
Fundraising, you know, um, I started the nonprofit in 2009. Like I said, when we were up at Madigan and my witnessing those things, it's like, I have got to do something. And it's for fundraising because for the military, we the balance being we have a 40-year veteran who's a lieutenant colonel that's just retired and came on as an acupuncturist, an ARNP acupuncturist. We have a Coast Guard massage therapist. We have another mental health person that was in the Army as well. So we have a multimodality clinic where there's a total of 11 people here, and five of them are veterans. The other six are veteran family members or first responder family members. So having dealt with all that, organically that has happened, but those are the services that the nonprofit, because I started that because there was no the services weren't being covered back in 2009. Barely anything was covered. Currently, for active duty veterans, not even half of what we're doing here is covered
Oh my
by
gosh.
the VA or by TRICARE. And on the VA side, it's intermittent at best if the things are covered at all. So we've had people that have been waiting for over a year to get an authorization to get here, and yet they'll pay for opioids, medications, all that stuff. We have people from the clinic at Madigan that have bound down here that we're trying to get free of, that actually work in the clinic, that are trying to get free of the medications. It ex Trying to get services from the big machine is really difficult for most, not all, but for most. And it just exacerbates the situation when people are trying to get services and trying to heal, or they get cut off from services, or whatever that case may be. In my vision is to be able to, I have yet to turn anybody away, whether there's funding or not, because I can't.
That's what I
That's
was
not even
looking
an
for.
option for me. I just can't.
Kim, that's why you're
I
my favorite.
tried.
See, she's being gentle about it. For those of you in the back, what Kim is saying, and I'm stealing this from an earlier thing, at whatever level of detriment, whatever level it is for the team, she has said to me, and this is heartbreaking and lovely at the same time, you never want to turn away somebody for what could have been years of pain for a few bucks. That is wisdom that is boiled down into fortune cookie level, right? When a human
Yeah,
being looks at me and says, "I don't want to turn away a human being for a couple of bucks," and I'm like, "Oh, God bless you. You're on the
I
side of my
can't.
grace. You
No,
can't.
I
You
don't want
can't.
to, but I can't.
Vocatus. It's the
It's
calling of what you do."
yeah, and I think it's working is more. I mean, that's the reason I can't. If somebody shows up and I know that the way this can help, there's just no question. I yeah, and yeah, I'm all in. Have
I'm
been.
I'm telling you right now, one of the things we have got to do, and in putting out part of your message, is it's got to be adopt adopt a bruised or broken soldier, adopt a bruised or broken
Mhm.
first responder, adopt a yada yada,
Yep.
because at the end of the day,
Sponsor
not
A.
that month, but if we've got businesses come in and that pays for one person for that month, and then maybe the second month, since it's ongoing, well, when that person, then we can replace them and then heal the next one and the next one, the next one. I love everything about what you do. So there's one thing, you know, when we know what we do and we're always frustrated by the same answer and over, I'll give you a funny one in the credit card industry. If I hear somebody call it a discovery card one more time, I'm going to rip my face off. The Discovery Channel does not have their own credit card. Neither does the History Channel. It's the Discover card. And you want to say there is no Discovery card, right? And if you've
Right.
ever said that, don't say it out loud. We've all done silly things in the past, right? But the number of people that call it well, I was using my Discovery card. It's not, it's a Discover
Right.
card. So if you could grab everybody at one time and give them this one piece, tell them this one thing, one piece of information, what
Oh,
would it be? And that's such a big thing because of what you do. And I know everybody's different, but what would it be?
yeah. We can't lose hope. You can't lose hope. There are options, there are possibilities. It is happening. I mean, I've done a fair amount of hospice work, and I've treated some people even as they're in that process, and things come up from them from childhood. So, don't wait until you're so far in, um, that you don't have the energy or the stamina to get through it.
Right.
There is hope. I mean, yeah, just keep breathing as I catch myself trying to come up with that word, not breathing. Breathe, and I'm available for emails, phone calls. I mean, if there's anything, I've traveled the country doing different programs with different people, and potentially I could get you in contact with craniosacral therapy. We're not all alike, but overall, um, if you've got somebody that can meet you where you're at and not push and pull you, from my perspective, everybody does things different, but being on that extremely neutral side, I can't pretend that I know what's happening for you, and I don't want to.
It all
But
goes
I
back to
want
that
us
guy,
to,
your shoulder, and he's listening. He's saying, listen, feel, just get
yeah.
a moment and feel what's going on right here. You know, my brain just went back to a little old Sunday school thing back in the day, and it was like the first time, you know, and in the Bible, there's the gospel, and you don't know what that is. And they said, well, that's the good news. And then I remember somebody saying, but that means I got to tell you the bad news. Right? There's a reason it's a good news. And for you, it's like, I think the bad news is coping is not healing, right?
Right.
We've all got this thing, and it's you wish you could bend down and take the stone out of the shoe that's shooting this up your leg, that's causing this pain, that's causing this, that's the traumas. You're holding it so much in your neck. It's like spiritually you can feel the weight of that helmet, pressing against the back of
Yeah.
you. This poor child, that the release for him was um, getting two bowel movements in a single day because his body's so clenched up in one way or another,
Yeah.
right? And coping isn't healing. Coping is, and the worst news you can say, sometimes it's terrible news, is you're walking around with this cane for 5, 10, 12 years. And what if that could have been gone 11 and a half years ago? That's almost terrible. It's still good news. Coping isn't healing, but healing is possible, right? And
Right.
wow, but
And bodies do a lovely job at coping and holding.
I
But
love that you keep saying everybody is different. Everybody's different, right? I'm going to tell you, um, in a world where we want massive turnout, and the only way you do that is cookie cutter, right? And my cookie cutter shape isn't going to be Kim's, isn't going to be Johnny's, isn't going to be Sarah's, isn't going to be Jason's, right? That's the that's the whole problem.
right.
And I just love it. It seems to all go back to this guy, and he's got your shoulder between his hands. He's like, pay attention for a second. What's
Right.
going on, right?
Yeah.
How
Like,
much of a
what the
learning
heck?
curve did that have to be, for you to then take that for the next 25 years of your life? Because it's,
Right.
we got to be in the moment. We got to listen to your body and find out where this is.
It's in the whispers, and we don't want to make it take out a 2x4 or a 4x4 to whack us over the head,
I do
right?
not.
So pay attention when you're having stuff, pay attention to that. And, not everybody's going to get rid of their cane,
Hmm.
but if they can walk more easily with less discomfort, because I know a lot of veterans don't have a pain scale. They don't, there's no relationship. A lot of guys in general don't have a pain scale. It's a discomfort thing. So if we can lessen their pain, lessen their discomfort, and get them out to walk 2 blocks instead of 10 feet, whatever that case may be, little baby steps, you know, just to help us be able to breathe a little bit better, sit a little bit better, walk a little bit better, ease the discomfort just a little bit more. So you can engage with your kids and you can engage with your family.
Right.
Um, get back out. I mean, if you watch the video on either one of the websites, Daryl talks about, and I think I said it, they get back out into their families, get back out into the communities, they start to participate and be more of a happier human. We're all human. We all have our flaws and we're perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect, however you want to look at that.
I'll take either one of those. I think they both
Uh-huh.
work.
Yes. So thank you for
Well,
allowing me and for everybody that's watching to hear this. I hope there's just one little piece that somebody can glean to know and get the hope
I'm going to take
that,
it a little step further than that. I'm going to say, listen, if
oh,
you have a business, you can support this very needful work without ever writing a check. We're going to put a link below. We're going to show you how to do that. Um, uh, Kim's nonprofit, there's even a way to have it so that you have a door sticker for your own business so that you get to brag to all of your clients and anybody who shops with you that when you're not going to bug them, you're not going to say, would you like to add $1? You want to round up to do this worthwhile work. You can say, when you shop here, when you use our business, you're automatically supporting this very needful one off, one at a time, no cookie cutter work, but very highly tailored individual service, especially to our veterans and our first responders. Kim, again, thank you so much. Every time I talk to you, you say something to me, and I say, "Great, I've got that running around in my brain now," because I'm never going to
Good.
lose. I'm never going to lose some of these statements.
Good.
It's always eye opening. I think if we had this meeting once a week for the next 2 years, I would still be saying that.
Yeah,
Because you are awash in your data and your information. Thank you for what you do and for heeding that calling. And um and I can't wait till this comes out. As soon as it does, I'm going to get you and your team a copy yourselves. Everybody,
great.
once again, this is Kim Nidro, and tell us the name of your organization nicely and crisply.
The Balanced Being. It's the website is bbihealing.com, and the Association for Integrated Healing is the 501c created for funding for these veterans, first responders, and their families. Is the letter I, healing.org.
Got it.
Thank you for your time,
Wonderful.
Will.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
That wraps up today's episode of The Wizard of Dogs. We hope you've enjoyed the insights and ideas shared in today's conversation. Now, if you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe and tell us how we're doing. Your feedback helps us bring you more content that matters. And of course, stay connected with us for updates, tips, and more. Until next time, keep giving, take care, and keep making an impact.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God. It's beautiful.